There is a cruiser out there suggesting that they were fat shamed at the cruise buffet. But they weren't fat shamed by a person, they were fat shamed by an inanimate object. And well, it's opened up a whole can of worms in my thought process. Was this person fat shamed by this inanimate object? And is it okay to waste food on a cruise? Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to La Lido Loca. I am your host, Tony, here with an episode about fat shaming and food waste. Let me hit you with this story time first. Let me share this comment with you. This was posted on a Carnival social media site. And as you can see, the passenger that was posting this is concerned that Carnival will do something that another cruise line has already done, and it will result in fat shaming. The cruiser writes, "Hey, please tell me Carnival is not going to start fat shaming us with a sign that is on blank cruise line. It would be a disaster. I know you would lose so much business starting with me." And interestingly, the sign that triggered them was a sign attached to the buffet that said, "Take all you can eat, but eat all that you can take." I don't think I've ever seen a sign like this on a cruise ship, so if you know of a cruise ship that has a sign like this, please leave a comment. But I have seen signs like this at buffets on land. I've seen signs like this particularly at Chinese food buffets. The idea is, hey, when you're getting your plate full of food, remember, don't waste the food. Now let's address question number one. Is this fat shaming? I don't think so. I'm a fat guy. If I saw a sign like that, I wouldn't feel fat shamed. I would just feel like the company was trying to look out for food waste, that they were trying to control food waste, and they were trying to, ping the minds of people taking food not to take more food than they may possibly eat. I don't really see this as fat shaming at all. But, maybe you could change my mind. Do you think this is fat shaming? Make your arguments in the comments. But the question that it really pushed into my mind that I wanted to address is it okay to waste food on a cruise? Now, I can see arguments on both sides of this issue, so I will present arguments on both sides of this issue. First, let me argue you should not waste food on a cruise. And the main argument that comes up time and time again, I think, is a false argument. I don't think it's a good argument. But the cruise company and other people will say you should not waste food, essentially because it's unethical. There are people out there that are without food, and you should not waste food when there are people without food. Now look, there could be some validity to that argument, but I think it's weak at best. I think it's weak at best, especially when it's coming from the cruise line. I would argue that the cruise line's less concerned about the ethicality of wasting food and more so about the painfulness of seeing people waste their money. Because that's essentially what is happening. The cruise lines are laying out all this money for the food that is to be consumed on cruise ships, and whenever people take food that they do not consume and they throw it in the trash, they're essentially throwing away the cruise line's money. And anytime that the cruise line can identify where money is being thrown away, then the cruise line really needs to work to recapture that money, to make sure that piles and piles of money are not thrown in the trash. And so this is when you start to get the reminders, hey, let's not waste the food. The wild thing is when you start to grasp that the cruise line is a business for profit and they're looking to see where their money is being thrown away and how they can change the dynamic of their money being thrown away. As a consumer of that product, as a cruiser, you start looking at your fellow cruisers and you start saying things like, I don't want you to waste food, not as an ethical issue, but as someone who realizes that if you see companies losing money because of waste, they're going to recoup that money somehow. And one way to recoup that money is to increase the price of cruises. And nobody wants that. So at the end of the day, if I'm drug into a conversation about this and I'm pressed for my one reason, to me as a consumer, I would say do not waste food, because eventually your food waste will increase our cruise fare. Now on the flip side, is there a valid argument for why you should waste food or not worry about wasting food? I would say yeah, there is definitely a valid argument there, and that argument is simple. I paid my money. It's an old classic argument, but one that still rings true. You laid down your hard-earned cash to go on a cruise ship and go to the buffet and take as much food as you want. You did not have to sign any agreement saying that you would eat all of the food that you took, and you did not sign any kind of agreement that says you would temper your desire to try everything on the buffet. So at its simplest, at its most consumeristic, transactional level, you should be able to waste all the food that you want. Certainly the cruise lines know that there's going to be food waste. They have that baked into their accounting. They have systems in place to deal with food waste. And look, you're not an employee of the cruise line. It's not your job to do food inventory control. It's not your job to manage food cost. You should be no more troubled by the food cost and the food waste than you should be troubled by how much cruise lines are paying their employees. You're a consumer of the product. You are not a manager of the product. Now, with both sides of the argument out there, let me tell you how I lean. I kind of straddle the fence between both. I believe that you should take and try as much food as you want, but at the same time, I believe that your technique should be take a little, finish a little, and then go get more. I am very much anti pile the plate up as high as you can and hopefully you can get through it. I think that is a wrong strategy. Again, you may only want to make one trip to the buffet and you paid your money, you've got your right for that. But I think both goals could be achieved if you used a little buffet savvy and only took a little bit at a time. For me, I would probably err on the side of not wasting food on a cruise ship because I don't want my cruise price to go up. And at the same time, I don't want to see a lot of food wasted. The cruise line's already bought that food. It's not like they're shipping it off to people that need food. You're certainly not going to solve world hunger by taking one less egg roll or half a portion of hash browns. I think we got to slow our roll when it comes to we're going to save starving people, but I do think we need to be thoughtful as consumers that what can we do to make sure that they don't jack our price up, and if we keep wasting their money, we are going to get our price jacked up. That's where I land on the thing. That's just my opinion. I would love to hear yours. Leave a comment below. Thanks so much for checking out the show today. Keep up to date with everything going on in cruising by subscribing. Please hit the like button. This is Tony for La Lido Loca. Until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido.